Hey, Wrestling World. Just recording my thoughts after hearing the announcement yesterday on the 19th of January 2024. It's 2024 and the hits just keep coming, don't they? Uh, Shakir Majid. I'm a Singaporean wrestling fan. I recently just got back from Japan, actually, on the 10th of January this year. I was lucky enough to have watched Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome, Wrestle Kingdom 18. The main event being Sanada versus Naito, and the co-main being Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. And Kazuchika Okada's recent announcement that he'll be leaving New Japan before March of this year came as a huge shock to me, seeing as he's been basically the pillar of the New Japan company for coming to about 10 years now. I think that his first main event in Wrestle Kingdom was in 2016, I would like to think, where he faced Tanahashi and he lost that match against Tanahashi in that Wrestle Kingdom. And yeah, it's 2024 and he's not on the main event picture, or he has not been in the main event picture for a while now. And a lot of things have changed between 2016 and 2024. The biggest one, of course, is the resurgence of American wrestling these days, with AEW being the obvious promotion that everyone talks about when it comes to importing or poaching of talents from different independent wrestling all across the world, particularly now in Japan. So I just wanted to give my thoughts about a few things. Maybe just break down my thoughts as a fan of wrestling. I'm from Singapore, as if like say you couldn't tell. So wrestling in Singapore, there's always been fans here, of course. But in recent years, I think we as fans have been getting a lot of good stuff from the international wrestling scene, and a lot of that, in my opinion, started with New Japan. So in 2016 or 2015, I think, New Japan started sending out feelers to Southeast Asia. I think they were trying to break into the Chinese speaking market in Taiwan and China, and by proxy, Singapore, I guess. And around that same time, I want to say you're getting all kinds of interesting things happening in the wrestling business. This was post CM Punk pipe bomb, and CM Punk had dropped that news about maybe he'll take the belt to New Japan, or so on and so forth. And suddenly, New Japan as a company was more visible to the English-speaking fan base than it had ever been before. Now, I was not as hardcore a wrestling fan as some of my peers are. So when people talk about old school wrestling and Japanese old school wrestling, I can't commentate on that. To me, Japanese wrestling starts and ends with my exposure to it in 2016 all the way till here in 2024. So I can't commentate about things of like pro wrestling Noah back in its day and so on. But to go back, bring it back to New Japan and Okada, uh, it I had the pleasure of actually seeing Okada live in 2016, 2017, when they had just been acquired or had been acquired by Bushiroad. And Bushiroad, as you may or may not know, is a very big trading card based company, or a gaming company which deals mainly in trading cards. And in Singapore, at least, there was a very big trading card community, or uh, still is, of Vanguard and Buddy Fight. I'm not sure whether there's any new games that have come out since then, but yeah, Bushiroad would have a expo called Chara Expo, which came every year at the time, and because New Japan had fallen under the Bushiroad banner, they were added as part of the expo. And as I think I was fairly touch and go as a wrestling fan at the time, and we had, prior to Bushiroad's Chara Expo coming to Singapore, there was a Wrestle Kingdom that was for the first time to my knowledge at least, for the first time commentated in English by Matt Striker and Jim Ross. I think everybody knows Matt Striker and Jim Ross, so I'm not gonna go into details about their backgrounds. But uh, for me as an English fan, that was my first time actually watching the New Japan product. It was Wrestle Kingdom 9 or 8. The main event was Tanahashi versus Okada, that old song, and the co-main was Ibushi versus Nakamura, and basically Jim Ross and Matt Striker sold me on Nakamura as a star, and I think it was after I saw that Wrestle Kingdom, and then the announcement was that Bushiroad was bringing New Japan to Chara Expo in Singapore, and I said I had to watch this, right? So best $20 I spent in an afternoon to this day. I'm 37 years old. That was almost 8 years ago now, and 9 years ago now. So it's like it's insane. This is still the best $20 I spent in an afternoon. It was also my first exposure to my own country's wrestling, SPW, Singapore Pro Wrestling. They opened the show for Chara Expo, and many of those wrestlers are still there. In fact, on this day, the 20th of January, I had just been to a SPW show last night, and they still delivered. So, but yeah, um, I had the privilege of meeting Okada I think I bought a Nakamura T-shirt. So, uh, I think I spent over like $40 or $50, and that entitles you to a signature with meet and greet kind of thing with Nakamura and Shinsuke. Sorry, Shinsuke Nakamura and Okada Kazukichika, and it was crazy. Like for a little over $70, including merch, I was able to meet at that time probably the two most impressive wrestlers in Japanese wrestling, and in Okada's case, he was probably the best wrestler in the world. Maybe arguably still is, and yeah, it was a start of my fanhood, because as a wrestling fan, especially from WWE side, those guys don't come to Asia very often. It's not logistically feasible for them to come to Asia every year, I would say. And the audience is different, the market is different, and the crowd is different, and you kind of uh, understand that you might not always see those guys. But when I had the chance to meet Nakamura and Okada, I was like, you know what? I think I'm a fan, and I still am. And from 2017, I told myself I needed to see them live, and it to go a bit into my personal situation. I think in 2015 and 2016, my father was dealing with a lot of health issues, and he had passed away in 2016, in October of 2016 actually, and I was in a very bad state, and at that time I was like thinking, I need to just get away from it, and I guess I was lucky enough to have booked the right flight at the right time and for the right event, and that was Wrestle Kingdom 11. And I flew to Japan. That was my first vacation in over, I want to say, since I started working. So since 2010 and to 2016, I had not taken a vacation. And my first vacation was for wrestling. It was my first trip to Japan, and my first time to the Tokyo Dome, and it was also my first winter trip, which is itself it's its own story. So every time I've been since then, I've been to Japan 3 times, and each time I went to Japan, I would pick up a magazine. It's called Weekly Pro Wrestling, to commemorate it. So yeah, I was in Wrestle Kingdom 11, the one Okada versus Omega one. It was a very very fantastic event. Uh, Looking at this magazine, and it's good to have it in hand, because like You can see the memories that were there. It was I can't remember what was the Metzler rating. Was it 6 stars? Was it 5 stars? But yeah, like uh, every time I just look at this, like say I saw this live. I saw this from really far up because like I didn't understand how to like navigate Japanese ticket sites. So, but I think they gave us all the foreign fans the same section anyway. So I was in the quote unquote gaijin section of the Tokyo Dome, and i- it was it was great. I interacted with international fans from America, from UK, a lot of Canadians, a lot of Canadians, and it was crazy. And I fell in love with attending live wrestling events, and I made it a point. And at that time, I was what 26, 20? No, I was 29 when that happened. So can you imagine? Like, I rekindled my wrestling fanhood when I was 29. Oh, sorry, got carried away with this. I haven't opened this in a while, and that that led me to my second trip to Japan, and that was in 2018, which was in Tokyo, the Budokan Hall for the G1 Climax, and this was in 2018, and uh, for those of you who may or may not have remembered, this was the one where Ibushi would lose the G1 Climax and Tanahashi would win. And this was the road to Tanahashi's last hurrah. He would go on to win the championship from Kenny Omega in January 4th, 2019. And shortly thereafter, that was when Omega kind of made the his actions or his feelings known that he was probably planning to leave the company uh, for what we eventually AEW. Now that I look at it, yep. And that takes us to where we are today. It's 2024. It's the middle of January. We have just had Wrestle Kingdom in our rearview mirror. Uh, Tetsuya Naito just had his moment in the Tokyo Dome. He uh, managed to beat Sanada in a pretty good match, I would say, and he had his roll call moment, and it was I don't know what the word for it is, but I guess it was. That's a lot of dead air, right? I'm not saying anything because, you know that feeling like you've just been at the end of a really good movie and like the movie's over. That was what this felt like to me. Like this was the end of a really good movie, and you know that this was the end. Naito getting the roll call, Lij getting their moment, and knowing what we know now, this is probably gonna be Will Ospreay's last Wrestle Kingdom, and this will probably be Kazuchika Okada's last Wrestle Kingdom, at least as a New Japan signed talent. And uh, this feels like the end of an era. This feels like the end of my era of wrestling, of being a New Japan fan of this era. When I say my era, I'm talking about guys like this: Naito, uh, Tanahashi, Okada, Will Ospreay, Omega. Like they've either gone on to other things or or their stories are coming to an end, and I don't know how I feel about that. Uh, it feels like the page has turned, and I'm like, oh, it's I'm already at the end, and it hurts, but at the same time, I understand what's going on. Uh, Okada is, I think, a year or 2 years younger than me. He's 35. He's been wrestling since he was 19. Okay. Uh, he was recently married, I think, in the COVID years, and by no fault his own, his salary has been affected by a depreciating Japanese yen, and his body is wrecked. Don't forget, and he, as a wrestler, he has never been injured. Like, he's been carrying in that company for a while. He's never been on the injury list for any prolonged period of time, as compared to some of the unfortunate incidents that happened with, like, Naito, Ibushi, Osprey. Like, a lot of them had their championship runs cut short because of injury, and whenever those guys had to drop the strap, they went back to the most stable guy that they had, which was Okada. And I think after like a decade plus or of just wrestling in New Japan, carrying that company for a long time, I understand, like, why work as hard as he has when he's going to be aging out soon, and the money that he's making in Japan is not as good as it is as compared to. And nothing is announced yet as of this video, as of this recording. I don't know if he'll go over to America. I don't know if he'll just be a freelancer in Japan itself. Like, it's very possible that he might just want a few years to, like, settle down with his wife, have a family, like, uh, or raise his kids if he's already got kids. I'm not sure. So, like, I understand that, and I understand the realities on the ground. The money is in America. The Japanese yen is depreciating. So whatever money he makes in America, it's gonna be exponentially bigger when he buys things in Japan, if he chooses to live there. Um, he does not need to have the pressure of being the guy anymore. Let Naito carry the ball for as long as he can until they need to pass it down to the next generation. Shota, Yota Tsuji, Ren Narita, Yuya Imura. You got the foreign talent like Gabriel Kidd, that German dude, Oscar Lieb, uh, the tall German guy, handsome dude, uh, Bolton Oleg. Like, the next generation is there. To say nothing about the guys that are still there, like ELP, the uh, Finlay, Drella Manoni. Like, these guys, they have potential. I want to see Zack Sabre Jr. win the championship. So Okada going out, like, this opens up the 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 main event picture for just about everyone, because quite frankly, Okada cast a very big shadow on the main event scene, and that was very hard for any of them to get out of. And now you have Tanahashi moving on to a more managerial role, and you have Okada leaving, and you have Naito. Yeah, I would say his best years are behind him, and I mean that with the most amount of respect, because he can still go if he wants to. But I think his story has bookended with Wrestle Kingdom 18 in the best way possible. Uh, let Sanada have another moment in the sun, because I think he earned it with this Wrestle Kingdom. The way he helped end that story with the roll call. Uh, yeah, I think part of me is sad, but part of me is hopeful that the future of New Japan is secure with the talent they have there and the talent that's upcoming. Now, the problem is, wrestling fans, myself included, we're not a patient bunch. We want to see our stars, and we want to see the star power right there and then. I did not see Okada coming up. I saw Okada when he was the guy, just on the cusp of beating Tanahashi and then being the man. I was lucky enough to see him get past Tanahashi and then be the man. So I didn't have to wait long. We are in this period where we do not know who the guy is. Is Naito the guy? But he had been a guy for a while. So who's gonna be the next guy? In general, I don't think wrestling fans want to wait to see who the guy will be. They want to know who's the best right off the bat, and they wanna they want to live vicariously through the eyes of the champion, the dude, the man. And whether or not, especially when you're talking about the English speaking fans, who already there is a cultural and language barrier between Japanese style wrestling and like the mentality of watching your young boys grow into champions, right? Some some American fans just don't have the patience for it. Some, no, I won't say American. Some English speaking fans don't have the patience for it. Like they want to see like, why should I be invested in this moderately handsome Asian dude who can go in the ring? Yeah, but I don't understand half of the things he's saying. Uh, or like this really good looking Asian dude. Like, yeah, he's got a great look, but like, and he can wrestle. But once he's on the mic, I'm like, I tune out, and I don't even know why they're fighting. Is it so? A lot. It's gonna be tough, especially for this generation. They are trying to play to two audiences. One is the local Japanese fans, and that is still their core fans. They should always try to make those fans happy. And you have the international fans, the American fans, the UK fans, who are a very big voice in the community, the wrestling community. The non Japanese Asian fans, whether it's in China or Taiwan or here in Singapore or Thailand, you know. So there's a very big, uh, some very big shoes to fill. And as a wrestling fan in my late 30s, I'm 37. In this year, I'll be 38, and Wrestle Kingdom will be in 2 years' time, right? Wrestle Kingdom 20. I'm sorry, Wrestle Kingdom comes every year, but Wrestle Kingdom 20 will be in 2 years' time. Uh, I have half a mind to see what happens in 2 years and attend Wrestle Kingdom 20. And who knows? Maybe we'll see two different faces entirely in the main event picture. Yeah, but as it is, if if this was the end of the era, well, I'm happy and I'm sad at the same time, and I'm glad I saw it happen live. I'm so glad I was there. I'm glad that it happened. Uh, I hope it's not the last time, and that I'll be there. I like going to Japan. It gets cold in the winter, but I do like going to Japan, and I hope to be there too. Again, for another Wrestle Kingdom, and still have that love as a wrestling fan. Because if you don't love it anymore, and if you just watch wrestling to get angry, what's the point of it? No, like, and that's why I can't get angry with Okada going, because I understand, like, as a guy who has worked the same job for 13 years, a good change of scenery would be good for anyone, and I wish him all the best. And for the New Japan talent that are still there, and the New Japan company that is still there, you still got a hell of a lot of talent, and as best as I can, I'll support you as a fan, and I hope to see you guys succeed in 2024 and onwards. Please come to Singapore. We need another live show. I'll for sure be there. See ya.